Former Padawan who can put out sustained fires in the vacuum of space. Sustained fires in the vacuum of space.
Sustained fires in the vacuum of space.
You know what? Just shoot me.
In the vacuum of space.
Another day, another shit. So let's keep our mouths shut, keep our heads down, so we know what's going on.
One that stood out to me because it's not super popular to go against this guy on YouTube.
It's not, no.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you get comments with the most, logical, insane things being said.
Also, it can be kind of dangerous to go after this guy because, as Star Wars explained, learned.
And that whole situation was just utterly idiotic, and I can't believe it was even a thing. It was a complete non-issue, but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, Theory has been the face of Star Wars YouTube for a while now. And I remember when we both Chaco and I used to watch him, when it was lore videos and it was theories.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this sudden shift from I liked The Last Jedi. This is how I feel. And The Rise of Skywalker was good. If I were to rate the sequel trilogy, it'd be 8. And then I don't know when the shift happened specifically, but it was just, parroting everything, all of the hate, all of the talking points. And then just, recently, every single new project has been subject to the most ridiculous surface level criticisms ever,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's we kind of did a little bit of deep diving on this guy a while back. I've got some clips here. Like, this was pretty revealing, and this is thankfully somebody sent me this stuff. I would have never known this stuff existed, and somebody emailed me some of these clips. It seems pretty clear that, to me anyway, that the once he started getting involved with these guys, Fandom Menace guys, Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic and stuff, that he something started changing. You know what I mean? But like, what's really egregious about these clips here is how he both wants to be part of it, but not their group or whatever. But he also doesn't want to be seen as the same as them, basically.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the Acolyte poster?
I think it looks like somebody's having their period and just decided to wipe it right by that lightsaber. I feel like there should be like I think it just means there's going to be a lot of women.
Oh.
They're all going to be synced up. That's what I think.
He got back in for a split second, Ryan, and booted him right out again.
You guys seen any of this stuff? Where he literally drops off the stream whenever one of the other guys starts saying stuff that he doesn't want to be associated with, I guess, and then just comes right back on when they're done making their terrible jokes.
Came in before I could give the punchline, so that's on him. But I think it's supposed to be just blood, and it's like, hey, this is dark and
edgy, but
gritty and violent.
The logical representation of what that is.
Respect your pronouns, I must. That's the kind of fucking Yoda we're gonna get in this one.
which we didn't.
We're in the clear.
I think we got
good.
it.
I like
it. Can clip that now. All right, I wasn't in the frame.
Yeah, I think
I actually have not seen any of that. I get linked a lot of clips to react to and to correct, but yeah, I haven't seen that. I do want to answer Eric's question about knowing the logical design choice of that poster. And I think for the most part, interpretively, it is blood can be on the hands of those that are the most light, and that's kind of like the story or the narrative of the Acolyte. A lot of people thought that like the whole mystery was the stranger, but the mystery was that what Soul did. And if we're avoiding spoilers, then that's all I'll say.
No, I feel like it's been out enough that we can talk about it to whatever degree.
Yeah.
Just maybe not spoilers for Skeleton Crew yet, since that just ended. But
Yeah,
we'll
I
talk
mean,
about that for sure.
Acolyte
talk
was
about
probably
that,
one of the darker projects in Star Wars, just from the raw body count.
Lucifer, that's brilliant. You know, maybe we should do that. What's some icebreaking questions? I'm an autist. I don't know what those mean. So
with what? Wait, with which guys? What are we talking about?
With the guests here.
Icebreaker? You mean like Karate Kid
Instead
2?
of just like, let's dive right into this fucking Chucks and Star Wars bullshit.
I would say for me, one of the things in this this whole discussion we're having, like with Ryan Cannell and everything, is it's progressively becomes like a younger sort of mentality when it comes to how they're interpreting media. Because I would talk to an adult about something and we might make a joke about something like that, but then you follow it up with like a decent conversation. But there's no decent conversation with them. It's like, for lack of a better term, like a locker room mentality, but it permeates their entire personality. So it's just everything about them is we're bros in the locker room talking about women objectively, you know, and people of color objectively and diversity objectively with my bros. And they've kind of turned that into their entire personality. It's just what their channels are now. But I mean, like the period joke is reaching. That's a stretch. That's like a big, like, that's so try hard. Yeah. It's cringe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just because there's blood next to a lightsaber, that could mean anything.
You know, and it's specifically because they're wanting to devalue the fact that it's, you know, female led, female centric show. Of course.
Let's the guess. What did you get? Well, whenever he comes back, what did you think of Acolyte? Did you enjoy it as a series? Did you like it overall?
Yeah, I enjoyed the story. I had some you know, issues with its pacing and some of its execution. But I enjoyed the narrative wholesale. Like I wanted to know more about the stranger. I definitely wanted to know more about where Plagueis's kind of role was in this kind of canon version. Very much enjoyed Amandla Stenberg's performance. Manny's performance, everyone's performance is really good. It's just there was a lot of like execution errors and pacing issues that I had with it, but I enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, that's about how I felt too, man. Is that I wanted to like the execution of it and the resolution of it a lot more than what I ended up liking. You know, but as far as, you know, just there was a lot of decent, really decent and even great ideas and core concepts there that I guess I would have loved to see play out a little bit better, but that's you know, a lot of people seem to really like it top to bottom.
I thought it was pretty good, but definitely had some flaws. Although the point I always make is it was still way better than Star Trek Next Generation Season 1, which is just rough. And that was allowed time to grow. And I am interested to see what would happen with Acolyte if it had time to grow.
Yeah. You want to do an audio check?
That's my biggest thing. I'm sure
great.
you guys can hear me fine. So I
sounds
apologize.
much
There's
better.
construction happening outside, and
That's
they
okay.
did something. My internet was down all day until we were live, and then my Discord started working. I was like, "Oh, it's back!" All right. So now we're back.
Right.
No, but I had kind of had the same issue. I enjoyed the show overall. My big thing is a lot of the Star Wars shows start slow. You ever see Clone Wars Season 1?
Yeah.
It's not the best, you know. Rebels is my favorite of the shows. Season 1, not the best. And we used to give these things time to grow. I think the Acolyte, of all of the things that we've gotten, has the best bones to be something truly special. And like in the choreography and the story that we were building to and getting to see Plagueis, you know, it was very clear that Leslie Headland is a deep cut fan who loves her lore. And that very much came across. And so I am pained that we aren't going to get that. But the biggest problem is that the decision to dislike the show happened well before the show came out.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely true.
Well,
sorry, go ahead, Dave.
You're good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the thing I would hope is that, you know, and I know maybe this is one of those like, you know, pipe dreams, but I would love for Disney and Star Wars to see that the fans would like in some capacity for these characters to continue on. And maybe there's a project we'll get that will tie up some of the loose ends from the series, since we're not getting a season 2, only because I think the show set up a very cool, pathway to some stories, and all of that just came to an end. That's, again, it might be a pipe dream. I would love for them to look back at it and see if there is a possibility that fans want that.
It's more likely than not. I mean, what Star Wars has been doing really, really well, particularly since Disney bought Lucasfilm, is that they've been making this kind of galaxy feel like even if you don't get the shows that you want, the characters that are within this galaxy are in it, right? And so I can imagine, and I keep on saying this, that because I'm known in our community for calling this for every show, is that I can imagine Quinlan Voss showing up anywhere. I can imagine Hondo showing up anywhere, and then the fact that we have Plagueis, the fact that we have such a mystery behind Vernestra and Chimere or the Stranger, is that we can get that story. It doesn't have to be the Acolyte. It could be a show that's called The Stranger.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was hoping. Because as someone who wanted something different in the Star Wars TV shows, I think the Acolyte really did scratch that itch for me, because it was because we'd had so many of these shows where it kind of heavily relied on knowing so much about the outside of that bubble. And I think the Acolyte for a lot of people was, I know for a fact that friends of mine that didn't really care much for Star Wars in general had an opportunity to sit down and watch that, and they started liking it immediately. They're like, this is really cool. I like it. It's a new story. I don't have to know anything about these characters outside of the series, which I also think helped Skeleton Crew. I know we're not really talking about that, but I think Skeleton Crew also felt like it was one of those things that people can pick up and run with that don't necessarily know a ton about Star Wars.
Yeah, and I think projects like this are exactly what Star Wars needs to continue. I feel like there's part of it that is it more Clone Wars? When you're like, it doesn't have to be more Clone Wars, and it was one of my issues with Ahsoka, which I very much enjoyed still.
Yeah.
But there were certain things that it felt like the show in and of itself didn't earn. And so I like that we get to have these separate projects where everything in it is earned by that project itself. And I think Skeleton Crew was fantastic with that, actually.
Absolutely.
One of the interesting things, because Dane essentially told me about you guys, and I started watching some of your content, and your guys' responses to a lot of these guys I think is really good. But one of the things you guys maybe realize I hadn't really thought about, and I actually had a debate about with a guy not that long ago about this. All these guys are treating like the expanded universe as if it's some sort of sacred cow. Like it has to be part of it. You can't just take it out. And one thing Ivy pointed out was that like even George Lucas didn't take the expanded universe all that seriously. But also, when I was watching you guys, one thing that really struck me is, have these guys even read the expanded universe? Like, it's been a while. I've read like a few of the books, but like I'm not even sure if they've read any of them. Like, it exists. It's not flawless, guys. it has issues.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did as we started in like 2019 as kind of lore keepers or lore masters is that we started to kind of take people to task and steelman their arguments with actual lore and citations. And one of the biggest things that we would run into with gatekeepers and kind of like the toxicity back then was, if you didn't know who Revan was, you weren't a fan, or, big Darth Nihilus fans. And we would get people, Chaco said this yesterday during our watch along for Skeleton Crew. One of the biggest things that we would hear is like, oh, Darth Nihilus comes off a lot better in the books. He only has a one shot. There's no books with Darth Nihilus
that he's not even in.
Of course.
So a lot of these people for sure come off as if they're kind of kowtowing to legends, but a lot of the arguments that they make either are very, very surface level Wikipedia blurbs. They don't really know anything about these characters, and one of the reasons we try to make a distinction between the two is just so that we know we are agreeing on the data set that we're debating, right? If we're talking about, the lore is broken, we say, what are you talking about? Are we talking about Legends, or are we talking about canon? Because Kiarimundi didn't have a birthday. Even in Legends, it was just an insider volume that had that little blurb of info. And then in canon, he didn't have one. And so everyone picked up their pitchforks for that. And then they got mad.
But Star Wars theory pointed out there's a Topps card that lists his birthday. and they violate a Topps card.
The most sacred lore of all.
My favorite thing was when they were like, "Look, they updated Wikipedia in real time. They're changing," and you're like, "That's what you're
Wikipedia.
supposed to do." When there's new information, you update with the new information. Like, I don't even know. But to be clear, both Pep and I are massive expanded universe fans. So because we talk about this, sometimes we get accused of like, "Oh, well, you just hate all the no,"
or you're new fans.
I'm 150 books deep into the expanded universe.
Damn.
The thing that bothers me is like when people are bringing up points and I'm like, "Oh, you haven't read that book. Why are you arguing with me over a book you haven't read? That's weird." I don't know. That's odd. That's odd behavior to me.
It's the same thing. Bob of the Old Ways here, talks about, because he deals with Lord of the Rings a lot, and that's his wheelhouse. And so he did, content about Rings of Power, and it's the same thing with those people. Like they think they know the lore, they think they know canon, and they don't. They often don't. Not only do they put more emphasis on it than any of the creators ever cared to. You know what I mean? It's just, it's as he calls it, fandomentalism. But it's like these hateful Christians that don't even actually know what the Bible says, kind of thing. It reminds me of that exactly.
That's so true.
And then also just like the patriot MAGA types that don't actually understand the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. It's like y'all are just, beating everybody over the head with these texts, but you don't fucking know what they say.